Jeremy James Anthony Gibson-Beadle MBE was an English television presenter, writer and producer. During the 1980s he was a regular face on British television, and in 2 years appeared on 50 weeks of the year. His shows regularly topped the charts, beating Coronation Street and EastEnders on one occasion. He was the first mainstream television presenter to have a physical disability. Behind the scenes, he worked as a script doctor on many television shows as well as presenting many corporate events. Early life: Beadle was born in Hackney, East London, on April 12, 1948. His father, a Fleet Street sports reporter, abandoned Jeremy's mother, Margie, when he learned that she was pregnant. Before Jeremy reached the age of 2 he was frequently hospitalized and had undergone surgery for Poland syndrome, a rare genetic disorder that stunted growth in his right hand. His mother worked as a secretary to help pay to raise him, including a stint for the boxing promoter Jack Solomon. Beadle did not enjoy school and was frequently in trouble. He was eventually expelled from his secondary school, Orpington County Secondary Boys' School. A teacher remarked, "Beadle, you waffle like a champion but know nothing." After his expulsion, he traveled and worked in Europe. He had a number of jobs, at one point taking photographs of topless models, and worked as a skin diving instructor, lavatory attendant and tour guide. He often said that he gave the best London tour because he realized that what people wanted were stories of blood, sex and death. Beadle was chosen in 1970 by Tony Elliott, the founder of Time Out, to set up a Manchester edition of the magazine, a venture that was short-lived, though he subsequently maintained a connection with the publication in London. In 1972, North West Arts Association asked him to organise the Bickershaw Festival, and he worked on further musical events over the next couple of years. In 1973, as an early member of the Campaign for Real Ale, he was elected to the National Executive and secured the campaign's first television or radio coverage in a 1-hour programme on BBC Radio London, which he hosted. It was during this period that his talent for practical jokes became evident, although occasionally this rebounded on him, such as when colleagues left him naked in front of 400 women arriving for their shift. He then started writing for radio and television, going on to provide material for stars such as Terry Wogan, Michael Aspel, Noel Edmonds and Kenny Everett. Later public life, radio and television: Beadle began supplying odd facts and questions to radio and television game shows, such as Celebrity Squares. He sent a number of questions to Bob Monkhouse, the host, without the answers, and Monkhouse was so impressed he rang Jeremy to ask him to work on the show. His presenting style on the phone-in programme Nightline on LBC in London, which he hosted between September 1979 and 22 June 1980, led to a cult following. He introduced himself as Jeremy James Anthony Gibson-Beadle. "Jeremy James Anthony Gibson-Beadle is my name and a bum is what I am," he explained. He teased his producer as Butch Bavin Cook. On May 31, 1980, he began co-presenting the children's television show Fun Factory with his LBC co-star Threes Birch, Kevin Day and Billy Boyle. On Capital Radio Beadle presented Beadle's Auditorium, a music show concentrating on strange, bizarre and rare recordings all taken from the archives of producer Phil Swern. From October 5, 1986, Beadle presented Beadle's Brainbusters on the independent local radio network, with questions written by Beadle and Paul Donnelly. He also became renowned for his off-air pranks and intellectually challenging quizzes. He wrote, devised and presented many television pilots for the highly successful game show company Action Time, then run by Jeremy Fox, son of Sir Paul Fox. Beadle wrote and presented The Deceivers, a BBC Two television series recounting the history of swindlers and hoaxers. The success of this led to using the same format for Eureka, which told the background behind everyday inventions. Beadle then went on to become nationally famous as one of the presenters of LWT's Game for a Laugh, the first show made by ITV to beat the BBC's shows in the Saturday night ratings battle. This was followed by hidden camera-style practical joke show, Beadle's About, which became the world's longest continuously running hidden camera show. From 1990 Beadle presented You've Been Framed. a family show featuring humorous clips from viewers' home video recordings. An offshoot of this was Beadle's Hot Shots, featuring viewers' intentionally funny parodies and sketches, some of which were re-edited and even reshot by a young Edgar Wright in his first industry job. Other sketches and scripts were produced by writer-director Chris Barfoot. In total, Beadle hit the UK #1 ratings slot 4 times. In 1995, reflecting his days on LBC, he presented a relatively short-lived but popular Sunday late-evening show on the newly launched Talk Radio UK. As well as his considerable television output as writer, presenter and producer, he appeared in numerous pantomimes and acted as ringmaster for many circuses, notably for Jerry Cottles. He also worked as a consultant for many television companies, wrote books, and presented quizzes both commercially and for charity. As a radio presenter, he chaired a brief revival of Animal, Vegetable, Mineral on BBC Radio 4. In 2007 he started to work on the Bickershaw Festival 40th Anniversary box set project for 2012 in conjunction with Chris Hewitt, who had worked with Beadle on the original event in 1972. He was the subject of This Is Your Life on January 26, 1994, when he was surprised by Michael Aspel during a school carol concert at a church in Hampstead on December 8, 1993. Writing, Beadle wanted to be the British Robert L. Ripley. A love of trivia was born when his mother bought him the Guinness Book of Records for Christmas when he was a small boy. This led him to write Today's the Day, researched in his own library of 27,000 volumes. The book recounts for any given day of the year around half a dozen notable births, deaths or events that occurred on that date, linked to odd or amusing facts. Beadle briefly performed a similar duty on television's TV-am, informing each morning's viewers of prominent events on this date in past years. The scripts were written by Beadle and Paul Donnelly. For more than 2 years Beadle wrote a daily cartoon series of Today's the Day for the Daily Express. He worked alongside Irving Wallace and his son David Wolochinsky and daughter Amy Wallace as the biggest contributor to the sex and death chapters of the Book of Lists, and was the London editor of the People's Almanac too. The Wallace's book The Intimate Sex Lives of Famous People Hutchinson, 1981, was researched in part in Beadle's library, which contained an extensive collection of erotic literature. In autumn 2007, 3 new books by Beadle were published: Firsts, Lasts and Onlys, Crime, Firsts, Lasts and Onlys, Military and Beadle's Miscellany, the first 100 quizzes from his weekly puzzlers in The Independent. He guest-edited the January 2008 edition of True Detective, which featured contributions from his friends who are crime experts including James Morton, Paul Donnelly, Andrew Rose and Matthew Spicer. In 1995, Beadle wrote The Fallout 2, Who Was Jack the Ripper? A collection of theories and observations about the Victorian serial murderer, published by the veteran true crime book dealer Camille Wolfe. It included contributions from experts such as Martin Fido, Colin Wilson, Donald Romillo, Colin Kendall and Richard Whittington Egan. In his foreword Beadle coined the collective noun to describe those interested in the subject, a speculation of ripperologists. General knowledge. Renowned for his general knowledge, Beadle was host of Win Beadle's Money. Beadle lost his money only 8 times in 52 shows. He wrote and presented a notoriously difficult quiz at London's The Atlantic Grill restaurant, then owned by Oliver Peyton, often attended by celebrities and members of the press. He also wrote a quiz for The Independent every Saturday. He occasionally appeared as a panelist on BBC Radio 4's Quote, Unquote and in Dictionary Corner for Channel 4's Countdown. Beadle was also a winner on the game show 19 Keys, presented by Richard Bacon, defeating Nick Weir, Nicholas Parsons, and fellow Game for a Laugh presenter Henry Kelly. Charity work. It is estimated that Beadle's total charitable fundraising was of the order of £100 a million. In the 2001 New Year Honours, Beadle was made a member of the Order of the British Empire for his services to charity. He was a keen supporter of the charity Children with Leukemia, a disease he suffered from himself in 2005. He spent much time raising money for many different charities, with Plastermind, his outrageous quiz for those who don't like quizzes, as well as a school video venture called Cam Class. Beadle was a patron of the Philip Green Memorial Trust, and he annually hosted a quiz party to raise money for disadvantaged children. Beadle was also the patron of REACH, an organisation providing support and advice for children in the UK with hand or arm deficiencies, and their parents. He was a member of Westminster City Council Freemason Lodge No. 2882. Although he did not join this organisation until after his television heyday was over, he quickly became involved with all aspects of English Freemasonry, and particularly its charitable work, often using his celebrity status to assist in raising funds for Masonic charities. Health and disability. Beadle had Poland syndrome and was one of the first TV presenters with a visible disability, which manifested itself as a disproportionately small right hand. In 2004, Beadle was diagnosed with cancer of the kidney and underwent a successful operation to remove it. In April 2005, a blood test during a routine post-op medical checkup led to him being diagnosed with CLL. Beadle was successfully treated for this, though two serious illnesses in such a short space of time were detrimental to his general state of health. Death. On January 25, 2008, it was reported that Beadle had been admitted to the London hospital and was subsequently placed in a critical care unit due to severe pneumonia. He died on January 30, 2008, at the age of 59. On February 2, 2008, ITV1 dedicated that day's episode of You've Been Framed to Beadle and promoted a tribute webpage to him over the show's credits. ITV1's official tribute to Jeremy Beadle was broadcast on February 4, 2008, where various celebrity friends including Lord Sugar paid tribute. Beadle was cremated at Marylebone Crematorium on February 14, 2008 and interred in Highgate Cemetery. A further tribute was aired on Friday 16 May, An Audience Without Jeremy Beadle, hosted by Chris Tarrant and with contributions from Alan Sugar, Henry Kelly, Ken Campbell, Anka Rice and others. Beadle's obituary in the Daily Telegraph claimed that he was the most avidly watched presenter on television. On August 15, 2010, he was the subject of an ITV documentary, The Unforgettable Jeremy Beadle. TV appearances: April Fool, Fun Factory, The Deceivers, Eureka, Game for a Laugh, Definition, The Saturday Show, TVAM, People Do the Funniest Things, Beadle's About, Chain Letters, Beadle's Box of Tricks, Born Lucky, It's Beadle. You've Been Framed. Beadle's Daredevils, GMTV A Fistful of Fingers, Is This Your Life? Sooty and Company, Beadle's Hot Shots, This Morning with Richard and Judy, Win Beadle's Money, Celebrity Sleepover, Ant and Dex Banged Up with Beadle, Comic Relief 2003, The Big Hairdo, University Challenge, Celebrity Mastermind, Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Partner Sir Alan Sugar, The Trial of Jack the Ripper Winner, Countdown, The All-Star Talent Show, Get Me the Producer, Dickinson's Real Deal, Publications, Books, Today's the Day A Chronicle of the Curious, A Book of Anniversaries, The Book of Outlawed Inventions, Beadle's About, How to Make Your Own Video Blockbuster, Watch Out! My Autobiography, The Gossip's Guide to Madame Tussauds, Firsts, Lasts and Onlys Crime, Firsts, Lasts and Onlys Military, Beadle's Miscellany, Videos, The Best of Beadle's About, You've Been Framed, You've Been Framed Again, Jeremy Beadle's Beginner's Guide to Practical Joking, The Story of Crime, Bickershaw Festival 1972, Bickershaw Festival Volume 2, Magazine, True Detective January 2008, References. External links, Jeremy Beadle at the Internet Movie Database, The Times Obituary, Jeremy Beadle's appearance on This Is Your Life, Jeremy Beadle, Loved and Loathed TV Prankster, The Bedleian Library actor and playwright Ken Campbell on BBC Radio 3.